NZXT has delivered some remarkable cases in the past, and you have to appreciate their strive towards improvement. The Switch 810, for example, had introduced some new standards for the chassis market, and we are very excited to check out their new flagship case, the Phantom 820. This full tower holds a lot of features that is reflected in a relatively steep $250 price tag. So there's lots to cover, let's dive right in. So the exterior is one to impress with its armoring characteristics. There's plenty of plastic incorporated into the construction, but it is of high quality. You also have 3 choices of color, all of which are the same price: the gunmetal gray, the matte black, and a glossy white. So let's start off with the front panel. Here we have a swivel door that opens just past 90 degrees, and from what we have seen in the past, this is not the best design as it might get broken. And behind the panel, here we have 4 optical bay covers that can easily be removed from the front, and also the controls to fully adjust the lighting system for the P820. Now this is something new, and we haven't seen anything like that comes standard within the chassis. So let's go over the lighting system. Well, you have different lighting modes. You have the rear LED on the back to allow visibility in the dark for the I/O shield. You have the color wheel, so you can customize the exterior and interior lighting based on your hardware configuration and really just your color preference, and an included SD card reader is also a bonus. And this level of lighting customization is very welcoming, so you don't have to fiddle around with all the wiring as it's all already set up. The LEDs are located above the window, so it illuminates the interior in a very appealing way, and the top also has some lighting, which is just extra icing on the cake. And it is all wired through this LED hub. Now unfortunately some of the connections were faulty and some LEDs didn't light up. I was expecting all the wiring to be top notch for that price, and hope NZXT makes appropriate measures with regards to quality control. And all of the connections are at the top, and being this is a full tower, it is quite tall, so you might run into trouble placing this under the desk while maintaining clearance for those USB ports. And in total we have 6 USB ports included, 2 of which are USB 3. On the other side we have the power and reset buttons for the integrated fan controller for adjusting the speed and switching between the fans in the system, and of course your audio jacks. The fan controller supports up to 15 watts per channel, and the fan LED corresponds to the speed of that fan, which is very nice, and you have the option to completely shut off the fan. And moving on, the front panel can be removed to reveal an included 200mm intake fan with a removable dust filter on the panel and a dual dust filter for the bottom. Next up is the side panel. This gives a hint of what's inside with this acrylic window with included mesh to allow for an additional 200mm intake fan. And taking a look at the back, we have an adjustable mounting system for the exhaust fan. In case you're doing any water cooling, this would allow you to have enough clearance. Then the I/O panel, 9 PCI expansion slots, water cooling holes, and a bottom mounted power supply with a dust filter. And the top panel can be removed to reveal a third 200mm fan with the same size filter on both slots. And the top also supports triple 120mm or a dual 140mm fan. And finally, it's really what's on the inside that matters when it comes to enthusiast configurations. So this scene looks very familiar. That's because they've kept an almost identical layout as on the Switch 810. That's because it was successful in pretty much all the aspects. Here we have 4 toolless secure brackets for your optical drives, a very clever design for the hard drive cage, and an abundance of rubber grommets that can accommodate for extra large and extended ATX motherboards. Looking in the back, a very large CPU cutout is available. We have plenty of cable tie notches for clean wiring and an inch of room to work with in the back, so no problems in cable management department. And it's always nice when a full tower comes with its own 8-pin extension, and it's especially nice when it's braided. Alright, so let's check out the drive system. They're all facing the back, meaning you only have to remove one side panel when trying to switch the drives. And NZXT went back to the drawing board and redesigned their drive trays. Unfortunately, there's nothing too special about these, except that SSDs now are in the center, and they appear to be a lot more flimsy and weak. For example, one of the brackets snapped as I was putting in the 3.5-inch drive, so just make sure to be careful with these. The drive cage itself is divided into 2 sections, the top housing 4 drives and the bottom only 2. It's nice to see they've kept the same angled fan bracket to direct the airflow towards your main components, which supports both 120 and 140mm fans. So the bottom portion of the cage can be completely removed to allow a dual radiator or fans to be installed, and as this is mainly targeted towards enthusiasts, let's see how well it stacks up with water cooling and hardware. So installing a dual radiator at the bottom, there's still plenty of room above and below the radiator to pull on air, and power supplies up to 200mm will still have clearance. Graphics cards up to 13 inches are supported, even with the additional fan installed, so you get the scale of this massive interior. And water cooling support for the top is really well thought through. First, the triple radiator is supported with the ability to do a push and pull configuration, and you can move down the rear exhaust in case it's on the way. Now, native triple support for full towers is declining, and it's refreshing to see a full tower that can finally handle 2 sets of fans, a thick radiator in between, while all being housed inside the chassis. And if you wish to mount a triple rad at the top, you can take the top off completely by removing some screws, mounting the rad onto the panel and placing it back. Now this would appear to be the easiest method. Also, NZXT has made some holes in the top optical panel, so the fan closest to the front can still draw air from below. And as we start with the assembly, we notice that all screws and zip ties are held in this plastic toolbox. It's not your conventional cardboard box, so they're really trying to add as much as possible to make this worth your money. And fitting in our standard ATX motherboard, it looks minuscule in this massive enclosure. So getting everything set up as I'd expected was absolutely hassle-free. You might run out of hardware before you run out of space to fill inside the 820, and with lots of room to work with at the back, cable management becomes almost enjoyable to do. So the new Phantom 820 is one impressive case from NZXT that brings a lot to the table with an awesome customizable color system, water cooling capabilities. They take advantage and fully utilize its large stature, plus an integrated fan controller that always is a bonus, and obviously future-proof in the hardware department. But I can't help but notice a huge resemblance between this and the Switch 810. Now they have obviously improved on construction quality, slightly modified the hard drive cage, and added more icing to the already sweet cake with their lighting system and fan control, and that's all for an additional $80 when compared with the price of the Switch 810. And also the new and redesigned hard drive trays are weak and flimsy, and the circuit board for the LEDs had some faulty connections which didn't light up all the LEDs. So in terms of a practical and a fully loaded full tower, the Phantom 820 definitely fits that category. But at $250, they're surely competing with their own Switch 810, as it's an almost identical case. But from an overall market perspective, I would say NZXT holds major grounds when it comes to market competition for full towers, and deserves the Hardware Canucks damn good award. And that concludes our review for the Phantom 820 from NZXT. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you next one.